This is Gran Turismo 3's prize car roulette. The game uses this to award a prize car after completing a championship or endurance. It's a moment of fate for the player, as they wait for the game to determine whether the hours spent were truly worthwhile. Most roulettes contain 4 cars, with one being selected at random after a couple rotations. The prize car roulette has been infamous amongst the GT community ever since the game launched, particularly due to the unbalanced nature of many of the prize car pools. The imbalance is most noticeable in endurances, as each prize car pool is one F1 car, surrounded by much less noteworthy prizes. Even if you get a race car, you're left feeling like you missed out on something much greater. Some championships have equally frustrating prize car pools. Anyone who has played through this game will tell you how the game loves to place Toyota Vitzes across many prize car pools, even though you'll already have received at least one through normal progression. This has led to many hilarious moments over the years.
I don't know what I even want. Not that!
These mishaps have led many members of the community to ask, is there a way to rig the roulette in our favour? Many theories have been devised on how to manipulate the prize car roulette, with some more credible than others. One popular method spread across internet forums and school playgrounds is known as the X trick. Players speculated that, if you press X as the spinner is underneath the car you want, the roulette would eventually stop on that car. If you didn't receive the correct car, you mistimed it and you'll need to try again. Now that we have access to emulators and save states 20 years later, it's very easy to prove whether pressing X has any effect on the roulette. By reducing the emulator speed to 25%, I can make a save state at the start of the roulette, then attempt to click X with perfect timing when the F1 car is highlighted. As you can see, even with perfectly timed presses, the roulette still reveals a gold Clio race car. If I try again, the outcome will still be the same, a gold Clio race car. If I instead tried to press X whenever the top card in the roulette is highlighted, it will still have the same outcome, a gold Clio race car. It would seem that the car and colour is predetermined the moment you enter the roulette. By making a save state before proceeding to the roulette and reloading, you can see that, by entering the roulette in different frames, the prize car received each time is different. To determine whether the roulette is truly random with equal odds, I decided to do a test by repeating the roulette 200 times, making sure I didn't enter the roulette in the same frame as a previous try. The results looked like this. While not perfectly even, the number of times each car was picked is close enough to 25% that one can reasonably assume that every car is equal odds of being selected. Another strategy for manipulating the roulette is known as the save trick. This was actually something I showcased in my previous video that was focused on another exploit in GT3, the trade trick. In a championship, by saving before the last race, you can skip the final race, roll the prize car roulette, and if you didn't get the car you wanted, you can load the save and it'll bring you back to before the roulette. This is extremely useful for securing prize cars in championships. However, it doesn't work in endurances, as there's no way to save after winning the endurance and before the roulette. For most players, this is the only way to legitimately have any control over the roulette, without using save states. I say most players however, because, up to now, all of the footage shown was played on the NTSC-U version of the game. There is a certain version of Gran Turismo 3 where it's indeed possible to manipulate the roulette in both championships and endurances. This brings us to one final trick, what some may know as the Kenji trick. On January 22, 2002, a user named Kenji made a post in the Gran Turismo 3 section of the NeoSeeker forums. It reads as follows, quote, I don't know if any of you know this already, but there is a way to definitely get an F1 car in the endurance races. Follow these steps precisely. 1. Go to your home and choose whatever car you wish to use in the enduro race. Get in it and save your game. Now reset your machine. 2. When the intro sequence comes on, press start to skip it. The GT main menu now comes up. 3. Leave the menu alone and allow the demo sequence to come on. When it does, press start to return to the main menu. 4. Leave the game alone again and let the demo sequence come on again. When it does, press start twice in quick succession to get back to the main title screen once again. 5. Select GT mode and choose the race you wish to enter and win. Make sure you win the race, and when you do, you will receive the F1 car in that race. NB. This is not bullshit. I've personally tried it in Grand Valley Enduro and Tokyo Enduro so far, and both times it has worked. It is also not a glitch. Why not try it, even if it doesn't work? And it does. What have you got to lose? Answer? Nothing, as you've got to do them anyway. Just do it and prove me right. Enjoy. Unquote. This post was met by a lot of skepticism by the forum regulars, especially due to the lack of proof presented. Kenji himself seemed confused regarding how or why the trick worked, but continued to emphasize that what he was saying was fact and that it worked every time he had tried it. Eventually, forum members would enter to discredit Kenji's trick, announcing that they tried the trick for themselves and it didn't work. Under pressure, Kenji would finally reveal the origins of the trick. Quote, "To give you some kind of proof, simply check out PlayStation World issue 25, February 2002, and look at the tips Tsuneri does with the mag. Inside, it says that it's a cheat left in by the programmers. How's that for proof? This backed up by it working for me. Isn't that enough?" Unquote. PlayStation World, or PSW for short, was a British gaming magazine from the 2000s that focused primarily on new releases for the PlayStation 2. Kenji is referring to a small booklet called the Tips Tsuneri that was attached to the front cover of issue 25. Unfortunately, neither issue 25 nor the Tips Tsuneri had been fully archived, but Kenji did eventually post the entire trick as it was written in the Tips Tsuneri. The thread continued for 12 pages before one of the moderators locked the thread and made a new one titled Kenji's F1 Trick. Both of these threads were a constant battle between skeptics who tried and failed to execute the trick, and blind followers that trusted the authenticity of the trick after being presented with any form of evidence that proved its legitimacy. The reason why so many people were struggling to perform the trick is because it was never going to work for them. Since the roulette is determined on the frame upon entering, no prior action has an effect on the outcome. It's very easy to write this up as a strong case of placebo, just like the X trick shown earlier, where a group of people managed to trick themselves into believing that performing a ritual will affect the outcome of a scenario. I had known about Kenji's trick for years, and I'd always assumed it was bogus, especially after I was able to verify how the roulette works after using save states. However, one question that needs to be asked is, how did PSW learn of the trick, and did they verify it for themselves before publishing it? By diving deeper, it becomes clear that the trick isn't as ridiculous as it might seem. In issue 17 released May 2001, PSW published what they claimed to be the first review in the world for Gran Turismo 3. This was 2 months before the release date in PAL and NTSC-U regions. In this review, they reveal a very important detail. You've been waiting for it, and we went to Japan to make sure we got it first. They also made a video review which has been archived on YouTube by F1 Games PlayStation, and in it, you can clearly see that this is the NTSC-J version of the game that's being played. Much of the menu text is in Japanese, and the Diablo GT-J makes an appearance, which was taken out of the game in later versions. It can be reasonably assumed that PSW was playing on the NTSC-J version, while assembling the tips that would eventually make it into their tips Tsuneri. So, let's try to perform the trick step by step in NTSC-J, to see if it actually works the way they claim it does. 1. Go to your home garage and choose your car. Now save the game with the car selected and reset your machine. When the video sequence comes up, press start to skip it. The GT main menu now appears. 3. Leave the menu alone until the game jumps into a demo sequence of the cars running. Press start to return to the main menu. 4. Once again, let the game jump into another demo sequence. Now press start twice in quick succession to get back to the main menu. 5. Select simulation mode. Select endurance, choose the race you want and enter it. At the end of the race, the random prize car you receive should be an F1 car. By following these instructions exactly, you can see that I did indeed receive an F1 car. Furthermore, if I save state before the roulette, it will land on the F1 car with 100% consistency. The trick works, and to understand why, we need to look at how NTSC-J's roulette operates. Every time the console is booted up, a hidden variable is set to 0. As you play the game, certain actions will increment this variable, with one of them being allowing the demo to play by idling in the main menu. This variable is used by the game to determine the position the roulette will land on, alongside the colour of the car chosen. In almost every endurance, if you reboot the console and immediately enter and win the race without performing any unnecessary actions, the game will always land on the top car of the roulette. The only exception is Laguna Seca 200 miles, as this endurance only has 3 prize cars in its pool, and therefore there's fewer positions to choose from. By performing extra actions from this list, you can manipulate the game to pick a certain position in the roulette. The trick in PSW's tips Tsuneri opts for the idle demo, which increments the value by 2 each time for a total of 4. This way, the game will always land in the bottom car in the roulette and endurances, which is convenient as the bottom car in every endurance's prize pool is the F1 car. This method is quite slow however, as it requires waiting in the main menu for around a minute, so the game can play the idle demo twice. You can manipulate the roulette to land in the bottom car by incrementing the value only once, which can conveniently be done by entering the options menu once before proceeding to the roulette. There's one thing that PSW's trick fails to take into account: Laguna Seca's 3-car prize pool. Entering the roulette after incrementing the value by 4 always causes the right car to be picked. For the roulette to land on the bottom, the value needs to be incremented by 2, which can be done by entering the options menu twice before the roulette. The game region was a detail that the NeoSeeker forum users mostly overlooked. Kenji assumed that, because PSW is a British magazine, the trick had to have been tested and confirmed to work in the local PAL version of the game. However, this was clearly not the case, as we've demonstrated that it only works in the NTSC-J version of the game, which PSW were known to own a copy of. While it's unclear how PSW found out about the trick, they weren't the only ones to know about it. A number of Japanese sites from mid-2001 can be found that explain the trick in far more detail. One such site is miyakoshi.mydns.jp, which listed a bunch of tips and tricks for the game. One such trick on this site is another NTSC-J exclusive, which allows you to start a race in pole position without needing to qualify. On the pre-race screen, the AI can be seen driving your car in the background against the rest of the AI opponents. By waiting in the pre-race screen until the AI is driven a full lap, you can enter qualifying then immediately exit, and assuming your AI drove the fastest lap, you'll now be in pole position. This will be patched out in later versions of GT3. It's worth noting that entering qualifying will increment the hidden value by 4, affecting the roulette manipulation, so use this trick carefully. Roulette manipulation has an entire page dedicated to it on this site. While there are some slight inaccuracies in a few areas, the page covers all of the basics. It describes the manipulation process similarly to how PSW presented in their tips generic, while also explaining how to manipulate the roulette in championships. By saving after the final race of the championship and rebooting the console, you can manipulate the roulette by entering options a specific number of times after the final race. You can refer to a prize car sheet that lists the roulette position of each car in the prize pool. For example, in Preliminaries Digital Cup, the F1 car is in the top position of the roulette. By following the procedure and entering options 4 times before the roulette, it will always land in the F1 car. As mentioned, the colour of the car is also affected by roulette manipulation. In the case of Preliminaries Digital Cup, entering options 4 times will always reveal a navy and white F1 car. If you enter 8 times, the roulette will still land in the F1 car, but it will now be black and yellow. I made a spreadsheet guide for F1 cars that shows how many times you need to enter options before each endurance and championship if you want to obtain a specific colour. I'll link this in the description below. I've also documented everything I could find about roulette manipulation in my Gran Turismo 3 Ultimate Guide Handbook, a 280-page document that contains info about almost every aspect of the game, alongside tuning setups for a variety of cars. The colour prize cards received from normal events can also be manipulated in the same way. For example, for beating Razor Red Emblem Amateur, you'll receive the Nismo 400R as a one-time prize car. This car can't be obtained anywhere else, so once you receive it, you're locked into that colour for the rest of the playthrough. To obtain it in a specific colour, win 2 of the 3 races, then save the game and reboot. Immediately proceed to the final race and win, then enter the options menu a certain number of times. 0 times for a silver 400R, 1 time for black, 2 times for yellow, and 5 times for red. We've now covered all of the basics, and so, it's time to talk about how it affects the game's progression. Because you can guarantee an F1 car from endurances, there's now 0 risk involved. You can be 100% certain that the time investment will be worth it, as long as you follow the correct procedure. The easiest way to break the game's progression using roulette manipulation is by winning Roadster Endurance at the start of a playthrough. This endurance requires the IA license, and is restricted to unmodified Mazda Miatas, or Roadsters as they're known in Japan. You are, however, allowed to equip racing tyres. The most convenient method of entering this event is getting all golds in the B license to obtain the Blue Roadster RS. NTSC-J's B license gold times aren't too demanding, and it's a great learning experience for learning how the game's physics work. One technique in particular that makes the B license easier is reverse shifting. Cars in license tests generally have faster gear shifts if you tap reverse at high RPMs instead of gearing up normally. This can save valuable tenths and make some difficult tests more forgiving. If you're struggling with the B license, I demonstrate and explain the strategies for gold times in my GT4 RSC Present Speedrun video. Once you've gotten all golds, you now need to get the A, IB and IA licenses, so we have all the licenses required to enter Roadster Endurance. Then, get into the Roadster, buy an oil change for a 5% power boost, and buy some hard racing tyres. As well, go into run and setting from the garage so you can adjust the driving aids. ASM slows the car down whenever it loses grip, and it should always be set to 0. TCS can be set to 1 to prevent wheel spin when launching and going off-road, without heavily affecting acceleration. Save the game to slot 1, then reboot the console. Once the game auto-loads, proceed directly to Roadster Endurance. The hard tyres will last at least 10 laps, allowing you to beat the opponent Roadster RS on pit strategy. The race should take around 70 minutes to beat. After finishing the race and skipping the replay, it's time to manipulate the roulette. The F1 car in Roadster Endurance's prize pool is the F688S. This car can appear in 3 colours, and by entering options once before proceeding to the roulette, it will always appear in white. To obtain the car in red, you need to enter options 9 times before proceeding. and obtaining it in purple requires entering a total of 25 times. You may be wondering what the differences are between the F1 cars. There are 6 F1 cars, each based on a real-life car from the 80s or 90s. The name of each F1 car is a code that represents the engine, year, and real-life driver of that car. There are 3 6-cylinder 80s F1 cars and 3 10-cylinder 90s cars. The 80s cars are turbocharged and therefore have a sharp rise in torque at high RPMs, while the 90s cars are naturally aspirated and have smooth power delivery across their RPM ranges. All 6 F1 cars have identical chassis weights and tyre dimensions. If you've only played the PAL version of GT3, you may be instead familiar with the Polyphony 001 and Polyphony 002. These are clones of the F094S and F688S respectively. By looking at the game's internal stats, we can see that the 88S is on the lower end of F1 cars in terms of grip. It's still one of the best cars in the game, and it can easily carry you through the amateur and professional leagues, but if you want something better, you'll need to explore the rest of the Endurance League. My recommendation is the F094H, which can be won from Trial Mountain 2 Hour, or the Tokyo Route 246 Endurance. Tokyo Route 246 has 0 restrictions, and can be easily won using the 88S. Trial Mountain, however, has a normal car only restriction. Using the credits from beating Roadster Endurance, you can buy a road car like the Corvette Z06 and equip it with hard racing tyres, and it can easily handle the event. There's a lot to talk about with the F1 cars, and I may end up making an entire video about them in the future, along with how to obtain each one. Let me know if you'd be interested in a video like that. In the meantime, I have some videos on my second channel that may be of interest, including a showcase of F1 car tuning setups, and how to get the best F1 car in the game from Polyphony Digital Cup in under 2 hours. I also have a video showing step by step how to manipulate Roadster Endurance's Roulette. All of these will be linked in the description. For now though, you now know how to manipulate roulettes in both championships and endurances. If you've never played the NTSC-J version, I highly recommend giving it a try. It runs at 60 FPS and it shares its in-race music with PAL, which has the better selection of songs in my opinion. It's also fully compatible with retro achievements when played on an emulator, allowing you to earn achievements and progressing through the game. You can also compete on leaderboards for licenses and time trials. Playing on NTSC-J also means that you can win the Diablo GT JDGC, a region-exclusive car. I especially recommend NTSC-J for those who have only ever played in the PAL version, as there'll be 4 new F1 cars for you to experience. If you'd like to read more about anything I talked about in this video, I suggest taking a look at my Ultimate Guide handbook. If you have any questions beyond that, let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.